If you've ever wondered why your bank account doesn't show how hard you work, you're not alone. Maybe you earn more than you ever have before, but money still slips through your fingers. The harder you try, the faster it seems to disappear. Why is it so difficult to get ahead, even with a good income? The truth is, earning more isn't enough. Many people, no matter how successful, fall into the same traps, spending more just because they can, putting off saving for later, and relying on willpower to make good choices. These habits make it feel like you're always running, but never moving forward. It's not because you aren't smart or disciplined, it's because you don't have a system that works for real life. This book is here to change that. Rich Thinking, Avoid the 7 Common Mistakes Keeping You Poor, is your guide to finally keeping more of what you earn. You'll learn the one simple number that tells you whether you're building wealth or just spinning your wheels. You'll see how small changes, like making saving automatic and adding speed bumps to spending, can transform your money, even if nothing else has worked before. As you read, you'll discover how to break free from living paycheck to paycheck and start building a safety net, so unexpected expenses don't knock you off track. You'll find ways to pay down debt without feeling overwhelmed and spot those little money leaks that quietly drain your progress. Most importantly, you'll learn how to make a plan that actually fits your life. A plan you can stick to, even if you're busy or not a numbers person. This isn't about living on less or depriving yourself. It's about putting your money to work for you so you can enjoy life with less stress and more freedom. You don't have to be perfect or obsessed with spreadsheets. You just need a new approach. Your path to real wealth starts with changing how you manage money, not just how much you make. Welcome to Rich Thinking. Let's build your financial future, starting now. Chapter 1. Start Rich. You are working harder than ever, yet your bank account looks exactly the same as it did 2 years ago. This is the paradox of the modern high earner. You secure the promotion, you negotiate the raise, and you celebrate the bonus. You see the numbers on your pay stub go up, and you feel a momentary surge of progress. But 6 months later, the surplus has vanished. The stress is back. The liquidity is gone. You are running on a treadmill that speeds up every time you take a step, leaving you exhausted in the exact same coordinate where you started. This is not a failure of intelligence. It is not a failure of effort. It is a mechanical failure of your financial operating system. You have been taught to worship income while ignoring the only metric that actually builds freedom. You are playing a game where the rules are rigged against your psychology, and because you do not have a system to counter them, you are losing by default. In this chapter, we are going to stop the bleeding. We will map the precise mechanics of why smart, ambitious people stay broke while earning well. We will expose the invisible biases that drain your wealth before you even have a chance to save it. Most importantly, we will replace your confusion with a single bias-proof order of operations. You are going to leave these pages with a clear 90-day roadmap to fix your financial foundation. This is where you stop hoping for wealth and start engineering it. The high-income trap. The most dangerous lie in personal finance is that a higher salary solves money problems. If that were true, lottery winners would stay rich and high-level executives would never file for bankruptcy. The reality is that income is nothing more than potential. It is water flowing through a pipe. If the pipe is full of holes, increasing the water pressure does not fill the bucket any faster. It just makes a bigger mess. The problem is that society celebrates the water pressure. We ask people what they make, not what they keep. We admire the visible artifacts of spending, the cars, the trips, the renovations, which are actually proof of money leaving your life, not money staying in it. This focus on income creates a blind spot. You optimize your career to earn more, but you have no strategy for the keep rate, which is the percentage of your net income that you actually retain and deploy for growth. Without a focus on keep rate, you fall victim to the 3 silent killers of wealth. First, there is present bias, the deep-seated cognitive glitch that values immediate pleasure over future security. Your brain is wired to prioritize the now. It wants the reward today, not in 10 years. Second, there is mental accounting, where you justify leaks by categorizing money into arbitrary buckets like bonus money or tax refund, treating it as less valuable than your regular paycheck. Third, and most lethal, is hedonic adaptation. This is the phenomenon where new luxuries quickly become your new baseline. The upgrade you thought would change your life becomes invisible to you within 3 weeks, but the cost remains on your credit card statement forever. These are not character flaws, they are biological defaults. If you rely on willpower to fight them, you will lose. You need a system that bypasses them entirely. The silent destruction of drift. If you do not intervene now, the trajectory is mathematically predictable. It is not a flat line, it is a downward spiral. The natural state of an unmanaged financial life is entropy. Expenses do not stay static, they expand to consume every available dollar of income. This is lifestyle creep, and it is as relentless as gravity. When you operate without a system, every financial surprise becomes a crisis. The car repair, the medical bill, or the gap in employment forces you to borrow. Because you lack a buffer, you finance these shocks on credit cards. Now, you are paying interest on your past while trying to fund your future. This creates a volatility trap. Your stress levels spike, your sleep suffers, and your ability to focus at work degrades, which endangers the very income you rely on. The long-term cost of this drift is not just financial, it is existential. You lose optionality. When you live paycheck to paycheck, regardless of the size of that paycheck, you cannot walk away from a toxic job. You cannot take a risk on a new business. You cannot take a sabbatical to recharge. You are handcuffed to your employer, forced to trade your time for money indefinitely because you have built a life that requires 100% of your energy just to maintain. Regret compounds faster than interest. The pain of looking back in 20 years and realizing you earned millions but kept nothing is a heavy burden to carry. Systems beat willpower. The solution is not to try harder. The solution is to build a machine that does the right thing for you. We are moving from a mindset of, I hope I have money left over, to a mindset of, I have designed a system where wealth is the inevitable byproduct. This approach blends behavioral finance with systems thinking. The core model we will use is simple. Wealth equals earn times, save times, grow. However, the control knob for this entire equation is your keep rate. By designing a system that raises friction on bad choices and lowers friction on good ones, we tilt the outcome in your favor. Consider the difference between an amateur and a professional. The amateur relies on memory. They tell themselves, I will try to save this month, or I will remember to pay that bill. The professional knows that memory is fallible and willpower is a finite resource that depletes throughout the day. By the time you finish a stressful day at work, your decision-making battery is empty. That is when you make expensive mistakes. A professional builds a system where the decision is made once and executed automatically. This is about removing the option to fail. When you automate your savings, you are paying your future self before your present self has a chance to sabotage the plan. When you automate your bill payments, you eliminate the stupidity tax of late fees. When you install a weekly review ritual, you catch leaks before they sink the ship. The goal is to make your financial life boring so that your actual life can be exciting. Your 90-day escape velocity. We are going to achieve more in the next 90 days than you have in the last 5 years. The objective is to hit escape velocity, the point where your financial momentum overcomes the gravity of your bad habits. This requires a specific sequence of actions. First, we must secure a quick win on your keep rate. We are aiming for a jump of 5 to 10% in the first 3 months. This does not mean living in misery. It means cutting the waste that brings you no joy so you can fund the things that do. We will use a method called silent leaks to identify the fees and subscriptions draining your accounts, and we will implement spending traps protocols to neutralize impulse buying. Second, we will establish a safety buffer. This is a non-negotiable fund of liquidity that sits in a separate account, untouched by daily life. This buffer buys you the time to think. When you have cash in the bank, a broken appliance is an inconvenience, not a disaster. This psychological shift from panic to calm is essential for making good long-term decisions. Third, we will choose a debt destruction strategy. You cannot build wealth while paying 20% interest to a bank. We will pick a lane, either the mathematical efficiency of the avalanche method or the psychological momentum of the snowball method, and we will attack it with automated aggression. Finally, we will install the ritual. You cannot manage what you do not measure. We will implement a 20-minute weekly review where you check your keep rate, verify your automations, and adjust your course. This is your scoreboard. Without a scoreboard, you are just practicing. You aren't playing to win. The order of operations. The sequence of these steps is critical. Many people fail because they try to do everything at once. They try to pay off debt, save for a house, and invest in the stock market simultaneously, spreading their resources so thin that they make no visible progress on any front. This leads to discouragement and quitting. We follow a strict order of operations: buffer first, then high-interest debt, then baseline investing. Why this order? Because mindset unlocks behavior, and behavior funds the plan. You build the buffer first because it stops the bleeding. If you try to pay off debt without a buffer, the moment a surprise expense hits, you have to use the credit card again, breaking your psychological momentum. The buffer protects your progress. Once the buffer is secure, you attack the high-interest debt because it is a guaranteed return on your money. Only then do you move to investing. This hierarchy minimizes decision fatigue. You never have to wonder where your next dollar should go. The system decides for you. It creates a tunnel of focus that accelerates your results. When you pour all your firepower into one target at a time, you see the balance drop or the savings rise quickly. That visual proof feeds your identity. You start to see yourself not as a spender who is trying to be good, but as a builder who is executing a plan. The scoreboard of winners. There's a distinct difference in attitude between those who win at this game and those who lose. Losers operate on vague intentions. They say things like, "I want to be better with money." They admire their income, but ignore their outflow. They improvise their financial lives, reacting to whatever bill lands in the mailbox. They view systems as restrictive cages that limit their freedom. Winners operate on feedback loops. They know that true freedom comes from discipline. They treat their keep rate as their North Star. They do not hope for results. They engineer them through automation and iterate based on data. They look at their numbers every single week, not to shame themselves, but to adjust the machine. They understand that a 1% improvement, repeated relentlessly, compounds into a fortune. You are standing at the threshold of a different life. A life where money is a tool you control, not a source of anxiety that controls you. The path is simple, but it is not easy. It requires you to abandon the script society has handed you about what it means to be rich. It requires you to stop looking at your neighbor's driveway and start looking at your own order of operations. We have defined the problem. We have mapped the terrain. We have set the target. But a map is useless if you're holding it upside down. Before we can build the automations and slash the expenses, we have to address the software running in your brain. You can have the best plan in the world, but if your internal identity is still calibrated to scarcity and status chasing, you will subconsciously dismantle everything you build. The greatest barrier to your wealth isn't the economy, and it isn't your salary. It is the story you tell yourself about who you are. It is time to rewrite that story. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to Grow to the Top and activate notifications to receive more self-improvement tips that will supercharge your growth. And make sure to give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. It really helps the channel grow. Thank you for your support. Chapter 2, Mindset Shift. You think your bank account is a math problem. It isn't. It is a mirror. Every dollar figure on your screen, whether it is a surplus that makes you smile or a deficit that wakes you up at 3 a.m., is a reflection of a script running silently in the background of your mind. You can learn every tax loophole in existence and memorize the historical returns of the S&P 500, But if your internal operating system is coded for scarcity, you will subconsciously dismantle every bit of wealth you manage to build. Everything you know about discipline is likely wrong. We are taught that financial success is a battle of willpower, a daily fistfight against the urge to spend. But willpower is a finite resource, and fighting yourself is exhausting. The reason you struggle to stick to a budget isn't that you are weak. It is that your behaviors are currently at war with your identity. You are trying to act like a wealthy person while still viewing yourself as a consumer who lives for the weekend. In this chapter, we are going to stop fighting the symptoms and rewrite the source code. We are moving away from the exhausting cycle of restriction and into a new mode of operation where the right choices happen by default. You are about to trade the anxiety of the spender for the calm authority of the builder. This isn't about positive thinking or chanting affirmations in the mirror. It is about aligning your psychology with the mechanics of wealth so that getting rich becomes the path of least resistance. The ceiling of your own making. There is a reason why lottery winners often go bankrupt within a few years, and why high earners often live paycheck to paycheck. It is the same reason a thermostat works. If a thermostat is set to 70 degrees, it doesn't matter if you open the windows on a hot day or light a fire in the fireplace. The system will kick in to cool down or heat up the room until it returns to the set point. Your financial identity works exactly the same way. You have an internal set point, a belief about how much money you are supposed to have and what kind of person you are. If you view yourself as someone who just gets by, your subconscious mind will become uncomfortable the moment you accumulate a surplus. You will feel a strange itch to spend it, to get back to the zero balance that feels familiar and safe. This is why you blow the bonus. This is why the tax refund vanishes. You are unconsciously regulating your wealth down to match your identity. The story you tell yourself drives what you notice in the world. If your story is money is scarce and hard to keep, your brain will scan your environment for threats and reasons to panic. If your story is I am a builder of wealth, your brain scans for levers and opportunities. What you notice drives your choices, and your choices compound into your net worth. To break the ceiling, we have to reset the thermostat. We have to change the story from I want to save money to I am a person who builds wealth. The architect versus the victim. Most people operate under a scarcity mindset, but not in the way you might think. Scarcity isn't just about having less, it is a reactive state of mind. The scarcity mindset asks one question: what can I cut? It views money as a pie that is slowly shrinking. It looks at a budget and sees a prison. It looks at savings and sees deprivation. When you operate from scarcity, every dollar you save feels like a punishment, a joy you are denying yourself today. This is why diets fail, and it's why strict budgets fail. Pain is not a sustainable strategy. The shift we are making today is toward the builder mindset. The builder does not ask what to cut. The builder asks, what can I design? When you adopt the identity of a builder, you stop looking at your finances as a series of restrictions and start seeing them as a construction project. You are the architect. The money you keep isn't lost spending power, it is raw material. You are not depriving yourself of a latte. You are deploying capital to secure your freedom. This subtle shift changes everything. It turns the pain of saving into the pride of construction. Design beats deprivation every time because design implies agency. You are not a victim of your expenses. You are the master of your system. The income illusion. Before we install the new operating system, we have to delete a corrupted file that almost everyone carries. It is the belief that more income fixes everything. This is the, if I just made X amount, I would be fine fallacy. Let's be brutally honest. Without a high keep rate, income is nothing more than a vanity metric. It is a number you can brag about at dinner parties, but it does not buy you peace. If you do not fix the mindset that governs your outflow, new income will simply accelerate your lifestyle creep. You will buy a nicer car, move to a pricier neighborhood, and upgrade your wardrobe. The water pressure in the pipe increases, but because the holes in the bucket are still there, you just get wet faster. We see this constantly. People double their salaries, and yet their stress levels remain identical. They are running faster on the treadmill, but the treadmill is programmed to match their speed. The outcome is exhaustion, not a trajectory toward freedom. Wealth is not a function of luck or salary. It is a function of the gap between what you earn and what you spend. That gap is controlled entirely by your mind. Winners understand that luck helps, but systems dominate. You can manufacture your own optionality by refusing to let your lifestyle expand at the same rate as your income. The Identity Upgrade Protocol. So how do we actually change the script? We don't do it by wishing, we do it by proving it to ourselves. Confidence follows proof, not pep talks. You cannot think your way into a new identity, you have to act your way into it. The process starts with a specific exercise. You need to identify the current script running your life. Write it down verbatim. It might be, I'm bad with numbers, or money burns a hole in my pocket. Once you see it on paper, you realize it is just a sentence, not a law of physics. Next to it, you write the rival belief, the code of the builder. I am a keeper. I keep 20% of everything I touch. But writing it isn't enough. You must anchor this new belief to a weekly proof. This is where the feedback loop closes. Every week, when you review your numbers and see that you hit your target, you are casting a vote for your new identity. You are looking at the data and saying, see, that is who I am. Over time, the cognitive dissonance fades. You stop forcing yourself to save and start saving because it is simply what you do. To protect this new identity during the transition, we use if-then rules. These are preloaded decisions that you make when you are calm, so you don't have to think when you are stressed. You might decide, if I feel the urge to impulse buy, then I will wait 24 hours. If I feel FOMO because my friends are spending lavishly, then I will open my banking app and look at my growing buffer. If I am bored, then I will review my buy later list rather than browsing a shopping site. These rules act as guardrails, keeping you on the road while you learn to drive the new car. Anchors and optics. You can hack your environment to reinforce this shift. One of the most effective tricks is to rename your accounts. Most people have accounts named savings or checking. These are boring functional names that inspire zero emotion. Change them. Rename your savings account to Freedom Fund or the Fortress. Rename your investment account to Future Options. When you log in to transfer money, you aren't just moving digits from one column to another. You are funding your freedom. You are building your fortress. Words matter. They act as subtle nudges, reminding you of the bigger purpose behind the friction of saving. You should also borrow a lens from those who have already won. When you are faced with a decision, a flashy purchase, a risky investment, a moment of panic, pause and ask, what would a professional investor do here? Adopt the eyes of someone like Warren Buffett. A pro looks at the long term. A pro avoids drama. A pro understands that status is a game for losers. Real wealth is usually silent. It doesn't need to scream for attention because it is confident in its own existence. By borrowing this perspective, you detach from the emotional heat of the moment and make decisions based on logic and systems. Troubleshooting the glitches. As you begin this process, you will encounter resistance. The old software will try to reinstall itself. You will have a bad week at work and feel the urge to soothe yourself with a purchase. You will see a peer buy something you can't afford and feel the sting of envy. This is normal. It is not a sign of failure, it is a sign of recalibration. When you feel a backslide coming, or when you find yourself browsing for status buys, deploy the joy per dollar test. Write it down. Ask yourself if this purchase will genuinely delight you in 30 days. Most of the time, the answer is no. The dopamine hit of acquisition lasts minutes. The buyer's remorse lasts months. If motivation dips, focus on micro wins. Do not try to solve your entire financial life in an afternoon. Just find one leak and plug it. Cancel one subscription. Automate one transfer. Then record that win. Tell your partner or write it in a notebook. I did this. Stack these small bricks of evidence. A wall is built one brick at a time, and confidence is built one confirmation at a time. You are retraining your brain's prediction loops. You are teaching yourself that you are reliable. The Great Unlock. When you get this right, the outcomes are profound. In the best-case scenario, you will see a 20% keep rate within 6 months, not because you are suffering, but because you have stopped bleeding resources on things that don't align with your new identity. Your spending becomes calm and consistent. The frantic energy of "where did it all go" is replaced by the quiet confidence of "I know exactly where it went." You will start to feel a shift in your posture toward the world. You are no longer reacting to bills, you are anticipating them. You are no longer hoping for luck, you are preparing for opportunities. The builder mindset turns you into an anti-fragile system. When a shock hits, you don't break, you absorb it and keep moving. But a mindset, no matter how strong, needs a mechanism to act upon. You have the identity of a builder now, and you have the desire to construct something lasting. But a builder needs a blueprint, and more importantly, a builder needs a metric. You cannot improve what you do not measure, and for years, you have been measuring the wrong thing. You have been obsessed with the top line, the income, the flashy number. There is a different number. It is a single metric that cuts through the noise, the confusion, and the complexity of modern finance. It is the only number that truly matters if you want to be free, yet almost nobody tracks it. It is the master lever that controls the speed of your wealth accumulation. In the next chapter, we are going to reveal exactly what this number is, and we are going to set up the system that forces it to grow automatically every single month. Chapter 3. Keep Rate. There is a silent tragedy occurring in bank accounts all over the world right now. It happens to doctors, software engineers, and sales directors. It happens to people who have made it on paper. They work 60-hour weeks, handle immense pressure, and bring home paychecks that would make their parents gasp. Yet if you were to look at their net worth, you would find a hollow shell. They are high-income, low-wealth individuals. They are running an engine at maximum RPM, but the gears are not engaging the wheels. They are making noise, but they are not moving forward. You have been led to believe that the solution to your financial anxiety is a raise. You think that if you could just add another zero to your salary, the math would finally work out. But you have probably already received raises in the past, and the math still doesn't work. That is because you are pulling on the wrong lever. You are obsessed with the earn variable of the wealth equation while completely ignoring the keep variable. Earning money makes you tired. Keeping money makes you free. In this chapter, we are going to install the master lever of your financial life. We are going to stop looking at gross income, which is a vanity metric that belongs to the taxman, and start obsessing over your keep rate. This is the percentage of your income that you actually retain and deploy for your own freedom. We will build a system that captures this surplus at the source, routes it automatically, and proves your progress every single week. You are about to learn how to accumulate wealth without feeling deprived, simply by making the right behavior the default behavior. The only number that matters. Imagine your financial life is a bucket. Your income is the water you pour into it. Most people spend their entire lives trying to find a bigger hose. They get degrees, they switch jobs, they hustle for promotions, all to increase the flow of water. But they never look at the bucket itself. If your bucket is riddled with holes caused by unmonitored spending, lifestyle creep, and lack of structure, it does not matter how big the hose is. You will always be wet, and the bucket will always be empty. Your keep rate is the measure of how well you have patched the holes. It is the single most important metric on your dashboard. If you earn $100,000 and spend $100,000, your keep rate is 0%. You are precisely as wealthy as someone who earns $0. Actually, you are in a more precarious position because your lifestyle requires a six-figure maintenance cost just to stay afloat. This metric is your North Star because it funds everything else. Without a positive keep rate, you cannot build a safety buffer, which means every unexpected expense becomes debt. Without a positive keep rate, you cannot invest, which means you never benefit from compound interest. When you focus on this one number, clarity returns. You stop asking vague questions like, "Can I afford this?" and start asking the only question that counts. Does this purchase destroy my target keep rate? The lie of leftovers. The reason most people fail to maintain a high keep rate is that they follow a broken formula. The standard approach to personal finance is income minus spending equals savings. You get paid, you pay your bills, you buy your groceries, you go out for dinner, you buy the new gadget, and then at the end of the month, you look at what is left over and try to save it. The problem is that there is never anything left over. This is not because you are greedy, it is because of a principle called Parkinson's Law. Just as work expands to fill the time available, expenses expand to fill the income available. If the money is sitting in your checking account, your brain views it as available for consumption. You will find a way to spend it. We need to invert the equation. The new formula is income minus savings equals spending. This is the principle of paying yourself first, but we are going to take it out of the realm of philosophy and into the realm of automation. We are going to capture the surplus at the source before you even have the chance to see it, let alone spend it. When the money hits your account, it must immediately move to a destination that is not your daily spending bucket. By removing the surplus instantly, you create an artificial scarcity in your checking account. You force yourself to live on the remainder. Surprisingly, you will find that you adjust to this new reality almost instantly. You don't feel deprived, you just feel focused. Outsmarting your future self. You cannot trust your future self. In the morning, you are disciplined and logical. By 7 p.m., you are tired, hungry, and prone to impulse. If your financial plan relies on you making the right decision at 7 p.m., your plan is doomed. We need to design a system where the decision is made for you at 9 a.m. on payday, automatically. This is where we use friction design. We want to make it incredibly easy to save and slightly annoying to overspend. You will set up an automatic transfer that fires the morning your paycheck lands. This transfer routes your target keep rate percentage directly into your buffer or investment accounts. This exploits the default effect. Humans are wired to follow the path of least resistance. If the money is already gone, you won't go through the hassle of transferring it back just to buy something trivial. You will simply operate with what remains. This silence is where wealth is built. It isn't built in the loud moments of buying things. It is built in the quiet moments when your automation runs in the background, stacking capital while you are busy living your life. The 3 buckets of sanity. One of the biggest myths that keeps people poor is the idea that a budget is a cage. They think that to be good with money, they need to track every single penny, categorize every coffee, and live in a spreadsheet. That is a recipe for burnout. Complexity kills adherence. If your system is too hard to maintain, you will quit. Instead of micromanaging every transaction, we're going to use a simple discretionary caps system. You only need 3 categories: needs, wants, and whims. Needs are your fixed costs: rent, utilities, insurance, minimum debt payments. These are non-negotiable and usually predictable. Wants are the things that make life enjoyable but aren't strictly necessary for survival: streaming services, gym memberships, your regular grocery bill. Whims are the danger zone. This is the impulsive spending, the random dinners out, the gadgets you grab at the checkout line. Your job is not to track every penny, but to set a hard cap for the whims category. Once you have automated your keep rate and paid your needs, you have a finite amount left for wants and whims. When that money is gone, spending stops. It is that simple. You don't need to feel guilty about buying a coffee if it fits within the cap. But when the cap is hit, you are done until the next reset. This binary rule, is there money in the bucket, yes or no, removes the cognitive load of constantly weighing decisions. The Sunday Truth Serum. Automation handles the heavy lifting, but you cannot just set it and forget it. You need a feedback loop to ensure the system is working and to keep your identity aligned with your results. Without a scoreboard, you are playing blind. This is where the weekly keep rate review comes in. This is a 20-minute ritual, preferably done on a Sunday. You sit down, open your accounts, and calculate one number. What percentage of my net income did I keep this week? You take your total savings and debt paydown for the week and divide it by your income. If the number is 20%, you win. If it is 5%, you have work to do. This weekly cadence is crucial. A month is too long to wait to fix a problem. If you drift off course in week 1, you can correct it in week 2. If you wait until the end of the month, the damage is already done. This review is also where you catch the leaks. You will see the subscription you forgot to cancel or the fee the bank slipped in. Because you are looking closely and frequently, you catch these parasites before they drain your host. Hacking the slope. Once you have established a baseline keep rate, let's say you start at 10 cents, you might feel like you are tapped out. You might think, I can't possibly save more. This is where we use the escalator technique. You are going to raise your keep rate by 1% every single month. Just 1%. If you're saving 10% now, next month you save 11%. The difference in your daily spending power will be imperceptible. You will not notice the missing dollars. But over the course of a year, that 1% escalation compounds into a massive increase in your savings rate. You are boiling the frog, but in reverse. You are slowly acclimating yourself to higher and higher levels of wealth accumulation without triggering the pain response of deprivation. To make this even more effective, use the two-bank method. One of the reasons people dip into their savings is that they can see it. It sits right there next to their checking account in the app. It is too accessible. The solution is to move your savings and investment accounts to a completely different bank. Do not get a debit card for this account. Do not download the app to your phone if you can avoid it. This introduces friction. If you want to raid your savings for an impulse buy, you have to log into a different site, initiate a transfer, and wait 2 days for the funds to clear. That delay is usually enough to kill the impulse. By the time the money arrives, you will have realized you didn't actually need the item. Distance creates discipline. The reality of momentum. When you implement this, the results are often shocking. In the good scenario, you will see a 5% lift in your keep rate within 30 days. You will feel a sense of control returning. In the best scenario, you could be keeping 30% or more of your income within a year, simply because you have removed the option to waste it. You will stop looking at your bank account with dread and start looking at it with pride. You will see the buffer growing. You will see the investments compounding, and you will realize that you didn't have to win the lottery to get here. You just had to stop digging holes in your own bucket. But here is the catch. You can have a high keep rate, a growing pile of cash, and a strong mindset, and still end up in chaos. Accumulating money is only the first step. Once you have the capital, you face a new enemy, complexity. Where exactly should the money go first? Should you pay off the credit card or fund the emergency account? Should you invest in the market or save for a down payment? If you try to do everything at once, you will dilute your power and stall out. You need a specific sequence of moves, a tactical hierarchy that tells you exactly what to do with every single dollar that you keep. Without this map, your savings are just a pile of potential waiting to be mismanaged. In the next chapter, we are going to hand you that map, and it is going to eliminate your decision fatigue forever. Chapter 4. Plan Discipline. You probably have a plan somewhere. It might be buried in a spreadsheet you haven't opened since January, or scribbled in a notebook that is currently gathering dust in a drawer. It was a good plan. It had projections, color-coded columns, and ambitious targets. You felt a surge of dopamine when you wrote it, a sense of control over your destiny. But then, life happened. A tire blew out. A friend invited you to a destination wedding. You had a stressful week at work and just didn't have the energy to update the spreadsheet. The plan is still there, perfect and pristine, but your bank account looks exactly the same as it did before. This is the graveyard of good intentions. The problem isn't that your plan was bad. The problem is that you assumed the plan would execute itself. Or worse, you assumed that future you would have more willpower, energy, and focus than present you. That is a fatal calculation. Most financial plans fail not because the math is wrong, but because they require you to be a robot. They demand that you make perfect decisions every single day, regardless of your mood or energy levels. In this chapter, we are going to bridge the gap between intention and action. We are going to take that complex, dusty spreadsheet and crush it down into a single page that you can actually use. We are going to replace the vague notion of being disciplined with a rigid, mechanical structure called the order of operations. By the end of this chapter, you won't just have a plan, you will have a behavior. The adherence gap. There is a massive difference between brilliance and adherence. A mediocre plan that you follow religiously will outperform a brilliant plan that you abandon after 3 weeks. In the world of money, consistency is the only superpower that matters. You can pick the perfect stocks and optimize your tax strategy to the 4th decimal point, but if you stop contributing to your accounts because you got distracted, you lose. The enemy of adherence is ambiguity. When you get paid, if you have to ask yourself, what should I do with this money, you have already lost. That question opens the door to decision fatigue. Your brain, tired from a long week, will look for the easiest option, which is usually spending the money or letting it sit idle in a checking account where it slowly evaporates. We need to eliminate the question. We need to pre-decide every single move so that when the money arrives, the action is automatic. This brings predictability to your life. Predictability lowers stress. When you know exactly where your next dollar is going, you don't panic when the car breaks down because the system has already accounted for it. You don't feel guilty about spending on a hobby because the system has already capped it. You are trading the chaos of constant decision-making for the calm of a preset rhythm. The golden sequence. To eliminate ambiguity, we use a tool called the wealth-building order of operations. This is a strict hierarchy of where your capital flows. It is not a suggestion, it is a sequence. You do not move to step 3 until step 2 is complete. This constraint is liberating because it removes all the noise. You are never juggling 5 different goals. You are only ever focused on one. The sequence begins with the safety buffer. Before you invest a dime and before you aggressively attack debt, you must have liquidity. As we discussed, without cash, every problem becomes a debt problem. You fill this bucket first. Once the buffer is secure, you move to high-interest debt. This is the mathematical equivalent of a bleeding artery. You cannot build wealth while paying 20% interest to a credit card company. You attack this with every available dollar of surplus. Only when the fire of debt is extinguished do you move to baseline investing. This is your automated contribution to the market, your ticket to compounding. Finally, once the machine is running, you fund targeted goals, the house down payment, the dream trip, the new car. This order works because it aligns with your psychology. If you try to invest while you are drowning in debt, you will panic when the market drops. If you try to pay off debt without a buffer, you will relapse the moment an emergency hits. The order of operations protects you from your own fragility. It forces you to build a foundation before you try to build a skyscraper. The myth of the master juggler. There is a pervasive myth that to be successful, you must be a multitasker. You think you should be paying off your student loans, saving for a wedding, investing in crypto, and building an emergency fund all at the same time. You spread your limited resources across 6 different buckets, and as a result, none of the levels seem to move. You feel like you are working incredibly hard but standing still. Momentum loves singular focus. When you pour all your firepower into one target, say killing a specific credit card balance, you see the number drop fast. That visual progress creates a feedback loop. You feel powerful. You feel like a winner. That emotional fuel is what keeps you going. When you split your focus, you dilute that power. Another trap is the idea that timing is a plan. You might be holding cash on the sidelines, waiting for the right moment to invest, or waiting for interest rates to change before tackling debt. This is speculation masquerading as strategy. Timing is a game for gamblers. Process is a game for builders. A disciplined plan does not care what the news headlines say today. It simply executes the next step in the order of operations. Frequency beats timing every single time. The 20-minute CEO. So how do we turn this theory into reality? We do it by treating your finances like a business, and you are the CEO. But you are a CEO who only works 20 minutes a week. You need to schedule a recurring appointment with yourself. This is the weekly money cadence. Put it on your calendar. Treat it as a non-negotiable meeting, just as you would a meeting with your boss. During this 20-minute window, you are not agonizing over decisions. You are simply verifying the system. You open your dashboard. You calculate your keep rate from the previous week. Did you hit your target? If not, why? You adjust your spending caps for the coming week. If you overspent on Whims last week, you lower the cap for this week. You verify that your automation's fired. Did the transfer to the buffer happen? Did the debt payment go through? This is also the only time you are allowed to make changes to the plan. If you get a brilliant idea on Tuesday to buy a rental property or invest in a friend's startup, you do not act on it. You write it down and park it until the Sunday meeting. This cooling off period saves you from ruin. By the time Sunday rolls around, most brilliant ideas look like expensive distractions. Visualizing the invisible. Adherence is hard because financial progress is often invisible. You don't see your net worth walking down the street. To keep yourself on track, you need to make the invisible visible. Create a one-page plan. This is not a 40-page dossier. It is a single sheet of paper with 3 lines on it. Goal 1, the buffer, target $5,000. Goal 2, the Visa card, target. Goal 3, the Roth IRA, target max. You post this somewhere you can see it. It serves as a constant reminder of where you are in the order of operations. Use physical or digital tokens to track progress. Some people use 2 glass jars, one labeled debt and one labeled freedom. Every time they pay off $100 of debt, they move a marble from the debt jar to the freedom jar. It sounds childish, but your brain is primitive. It responds to tangible, visual cues. Seeing the physical representation of your progress reinforces the habit. You must also design friction into your life. If your goal is to adhere to a spending cap, make it annoying to spend money. Unlink your credit card from your browser. Delete the shopping apps from your phone. Force yourself to walk to the other room to get your wallet. That 30 seconds of friction is often the difference between a breach of discipline and a victory. When the system stutters, even the best systems face resistance. You will have weeks where you miss the meeting. You will have months where unexpected expenses blow up your plan. This is where plan creep sets in. You start adding new goals before finishing the old ones. You decide you want to save for a boat while you still have credit card debt. The fix for plan creep is the rule of 3. You are never allowed to have more than 3 active financial goals. If you want to add a new one, you must finish one of the current ones first. This forces you to prioritize. It forces you to be honest about what actually matters. If you miss a weekly session, do not beat yourself up. Do not spiral into shame. Just book a backup slot immediately. The goal is not perfection. The goal is a streak. If you miss one, you restart the streak. The discipline is in the return, not the absence of failure. Midweek decision fatigue is another common pitfall. You are tired, you are stressed, and you just want to order takeout or buy something to feel better. This is where your if-then scripts from the mindset chapter come back into play. You rely on the rule, if it is Wednesday and I am tired, I do not make financial decisions. I defer them to Sunday. You outsource your willpower to the calendar. The payoff of boredom. If you follow this path, your financial life will become incredibly boring, and that is the highest compliment I can pay you. In the good scenario, you will stick to your one-page plan for 4 weeks straight. You will see your automations firing like clockwork. You will feel a strange sensation on payday: silence. The money will land, split, and move to its destinations without you lifting a finger. In the excellent scenario, you will hit a 90-day streak. You will have completed stage 1 of your buffer. You will have knocked out 2 smaller debts. You will stop worrying about money daily because you know the Sunday meeting will handle it. In the best scenario, you will look up in a year and realize you are a completely different person. You are debt-free. Your buffer is fully funded. Your investments are growing in the background. You have achieved adherence. You have turned a plan into a behavior, and that behavior has compounded into freedom. But even with a perfect plan, a solid buffer, and a high keep rate, there is still one variable that can destroy everything. It isn't the market, and it isn't an emergency. It is a specific psychological glitch that lies dormant in your brain, waiting for a moment of weakness to strike. It is the reason you buy things you don't need, keep subscriptions you don't use, and justify expenses that sabotage your future. It is a trap so subtle, you probably don't even know you are falling into it every single day. In the next chapter, we are going to expose this trap and give you the weapon to dismantle it. Chapter 5: Spending Traps. You are walking through a store, or perhaps scrolling through a website late at night. You see something you did not know existed 5 minutes ago. Suddenly, a switch flips in your brain. A warm flush of desire washes over you. You visualize this item in your life. You imagine how it will solve a problem, elevate your status, or simply make you feel better after a long, hard week. Your thumb hovers over the buy button. You tell yourself that you work hard, that you earned this, that it is on sale and therefore a smart financial move. You click, the dopamine hits, you feel a brief moment of satisfaction. And then, 3 weeks later, that item is sitting in a closet, buried under a pile of other things you once felt that same burning desire for. The joy has evaporated, but the money is gone forever. This is not a failure of mathematics. You know how to subtract the cost of the item from your bank balance. This is a failure of biology. You are fighting a war against your own evolutionary programming, and right now, you are losing. Your brain is wired for scarcity, designed to grab resources whenever they appear, because, for most of human history, tomorrow was not guaranteed. But we no longer live in a world of scarcity. We live in a world of infinite abundance and algorithmic precision designed to separate you from your wealth. In this chapter, we are going to stop bringing a calculator to a gunfight. We are going to dismantle the psychological traps that keep you running on the financial treadmill. We are not going to rely on willpower, because willpower fatigues. We are going to build a system of friction and delays that neutralizes your impulses before they can destroy your keep rate. The biological saboteur. To defeat the enemy, you must understand how it operates. Your brain is subject to a collection of cognitive biases that distort your perception of value. The loudest of these is present bias. This is the deep-seated preference for immediate gratification over future reward. Your brain values the $100 in your hand today significantly more than the $200 it could grow into 10 years from now. This is why you struggle to save. The you of today wants the toy. The you of tomorrow deals with the bill. Working in tandem with present bias is a phenomenon called hedonic adaptation. This is the psychological treadmill. When you buy something new, a car, a watch, a bigger television, you get a spike in happiness. But that spike is temporary. Very quickly, the new item becomes your new normal. You adapt to it. The joy fades, but the monthly payment remains. You are left looking for the next upgrade to get that same feeling back, trapping you in a cycle of endless consumption that yields no lasting satisfaction. Then there is mental accounting. This is the trick your mind plays when it treats money differently depending on where it came from. You might be incredibly disciplined with your salary, but when a tax refund or a bonus hits your account, you treat it like free money. You spend it on things you would never buy with your paycheck. But money is fungible. $1 from a bonus is identical to $1 from your salary. By categorizing them differently, you give yourself permission to leak wealth. These biases are not flaws in your character. They are features of your operating system. The retail industry spends billions of dollars annually hiring psychologists and data scientists to exploit these features. They know exactly how to trigger your present bias with limited time offers. They know how to weaponize mental accounting with points and rewards that makes spending feel like saving. If you try to fight this machinery with just your good intentions, you will fail. You need a counter system. The myth of the sale. One of the most pervasive lies we tell ourselves is that buying something on sale is the same as saving money. You see a jacket marked down from $200 to $100. Your brain registers this as saving $100. You feel a sense of prudent accomplishment, but this is an illusion. You did not save $100, you spent $100. Unless you were already planning to buy that specific jacket and had the cash allocated for it, the discount is irrelevant. This logic extends to the "I deserve it" trap. We often use spending as a mechanism for emotional regulation. You have a bad day, so you buy something to soothe the stress. You have a great day, so you buy something to celebrate. The problem is that the market does not care about your feelings. The price of the item is the same whether you are happy or sad. When you link your spending to your emotions, you create a volatility trap. Your financial stability becomes dependent on your mood, which is a variable you cannot fully control. True wealth is built by decoupling your spending from your emotions and your perception of deals. It is built by erecting barriers between the impulse and the action. We are going to install those barriers now. The cooling off protocol. The most effective weapon against present bias is time. Impulse is a fire that burns hot and fast. If you deny it fuel, it burns out quickly. We are going to implement a mandatory cooling off protocol for all discretionary spending. Here is the rule. Any purchase that falls into the want or whim category and costs over a certain threshold, let's say $50 or $100, depending on your income, must undergo a waiting period. You are not allowed to buy it immediately. Instead, you add it to a buy later list on your phone. The waiting period should be between 24 and 72 hours. During this time, you do nothing. You simply go about your life. What you will find is that for 90% of the items on that list, the desire will vanish within the first day. You will look at the list 3 days later and wonder why you even wanted that gadget or that pair of shoes. The dopamine spike has subsided and your rational brain has regained control. For the items that survive the 72-hour wait, you apply a second filter. You ask yourself if this purchase fits within your weekly cap for that category. If the desire is still there and the math works, you can buy it. But by forcing the delay, you have shifted the decision from an emotional reaction to a calculated choice. You have moved the power from the retailer back to the architect of your wealth. The joy per dollar metric. Once an item passes the time delay, we need a way to assess its true value. We are not looking for the cheapest option. We are looking for the most efficient conversion of capital into life satisfaction. We call this the joy per dollar test. Before you finalize a purchase, ask yourself a single question. Will this item still delight me in 30 days? Be honest. Most purchases provide a burst of excitement during the acquisition phase, the hunt, the purchase, the unboxing. But very few provide sustained delight. A high joy per dollar purchase is something that you use frequently and that improves the quality of your daily experience. A good mattress, a quality pair of noise-canceling headphones for a noisy office, or a tool that saves you time. These have high joy per dollar scores. A piece of decor that sits on a shelf collecting dust has a score of near 0. If the answer to the question is maybe or I think so, the answer is no. If you cannot visualize yourself deriving genuine value from the item a month from now, it is a trap. It is hedonic adaptation waiting to happen. By applying this filter, you ensure that your discretionary spending is concentrated on the few things that actually move the needle on your happiness, rather than being diluted across 1,000 forgotten transactions. The subscription exorcism. While impulse buys are the loud explosions that destroy your budget, subscriptions are the silent radiation that poisons it over time. This is where the sunk cost fallacy often traps us. We sign up for a streaming service, a gym membership, or a software tool. We use it for a month, then stop. But we don't cancel. We tell ourselves, I might use it next week, or I've already paid the initiation fee, so I shouldn't quit now. This is irrational. The money you paid in the past is gone. It cannot be recovered. The only money you can protect is the money leaving your account next month. To combat this, we run a quarterly unsubscribe sprint. Every 3 months, you print out your bank and credit card statements. You take a red pen and circle every recurring charge. You are going to be ruthless. You rate every subscription on a scale of 1 to 5 for utility. If it is a 5 essential to your life or happiness, it stays. If it is a 4, you try to negotiate a lower rate or switch to a cheaper annual plan. If it is a 3 or below, you cancel it immediately. Do not pause it. Do not think about it. Cancel it. If you truly miss it in 30 days, you can always sign up again, but you almost certainly won't. This simple ritual can free up hundreds of dollars a month, which is thousands of dollars a year, which is tens of thousands of dollars over a decade of compounding. The one-card firewall. One of the reasons we overspend is that our payment methods are too frictionless. We tap our phones or use cards that are saved in our browsers. We don't feel the pain of payment. To reintroduce a healthy amount of friction, I recommend the one-card method for your discretionary spending. Designate a single debit card or a specific credit card solely for your wants and whims. This card has a hard limit. You load it with your weekly allowance for discretionary spending, or you monitor it to ensure it never crosses that cap. You do not use your main bill-paying account for these purchases. By physically separating your fun money from your life money, you create a firewall. When the card is declined or the limit is reached, the party is over. There is no borrowing from the rent money. There is no dipping into the savings. The hard stop forces you to ration your resources. You start to make trade-offs. You realize that if you buy the expensive lunch on Tuesday, you won't have money for the drinks on Friday. This scarcity forces you to prioritize, ensuring that your limited discretionary dollars go to the things you care about most. The rebound effect. As you implement these constraints, you need to watch out for the rebound. Just like a restrictive diet can lead to a binge, a restrictive spending plan can lead to a splurge. If you cut your discretionary spending to zero, you will eventually snap. You will feel deprived and miserable, and you will blow up your progress in a moment of weakness. The goal is not to spend nothing. The goal is to spend intentionally. You must allocate a small portion of your budget to guilt-free spending. This is the pressure valve. When you know you have a dedicated amount of money that you are allowed to waste, it paradoxically makes it easier to save the rest. You satisfy the itch without burning down the house. If you have a partner, this becomes even more critical. You must align on these caps. If one of you is playing defense while the other is playing offense, the system breaks. You don't need to agree on every purchase, but you must agree on the total blast radius of your discretionary spending. Use the weekly meeting we established in the previous chapter to sync up. Ask each other, what is the one thing you want to buy this week? Discuss it. Run it through the joy per dollar test together. The quiet victory. When you master these traps, something shifts. You stop fearing the mall or the internet. You walk through stores with a sense of detachment. You see the marketing tricks for what they are, attempts to manipulate your biology. You see the limited time offers and the exclusive deals, and you feel nothing but mild amusement. You have built a fortress around your wealth. The leaks are plugged. The impulses are tamed. Your keep rate is climbing, not because you are suffering, but because you have removed the noise. You are no longer bleeding out from 1,000 tiny cuts. You have reclaimed your agency. But here is the sobering truth. You can master your psychology, automate your savings, and neutralize every spending trap in existence, and you can still be wiped out in a single afternoon. You can be the most disciplined spender in the world, but discipline cannot stop a car accident. It cannot prevent a layoff. It cannot cure a sudden illness. You have built a strong offense, but your defense is practically non-existent. You are walking a tightrope without a net, and while your balance is improving, the wind is picking up. There is one specific financial structure that stands between you and total ruin, a structure that most people misunderstand or neglect until it is too late. In the next chapter, We are going to build that structure, and we are going to make sure that when life hits you, and it will, you don't just survive it, you barely feel it. Chapter 6, Safety Buffer. You are driving down the highway of life, making good time, the wind in your hair, the radio playing your favorite song. You have your mindset right, your spending caps are holding, and your keep rate is climbing. Then, out of nowhere, you hit a pothole the size of a crater. A tire blows out. The rim bends. You wrestle the car to the shoulder, heart pounding. In this moment, you are at a fork in the road. For the person without a system, this event is a catastrophe. They do not have the cash to fix the car. They have to swipe a credit card that is already nearing its limit. They are now paying 24% interest on a piece of rubber. The stress of the debt makes them anxious at work. The anxiety makes them perform poorly. The poor performance threatens their bonus. The spiral begins. For the person with a system, this event is merely an inconvenience. They are annoyed, certainly, but they pull out their phone, transfer money from a specific account they built for exactly this moment, and pay the mechanic. They are back on the road in 2 hours. Their pulse barely rises. Their long-term wealth is untouched. This chapter is about building the shock absorbers that prevent a bad day from becoming a bad life. We are going to construct a safety buffer. This is not just a savings account. It is a strategic layer of armor that sits between you and the chaos of the world. Without it, you are fragile. With it, you are unbreakable. The price of panic. There is a very specific cost to being illiquid, and it is far higher than the price of the emergency itself. When you have no cash, you lose the ability to choose. You are forced to accept whatever terms are offered to you in the moment of crisis. If you lose your job and have $0 in the bank, you have to take the first job offer that comes along, even if it pays less and makes you miserable. If your boiler breaks in the middle of winter and you have no liquidity, you have to finance a new one at predatory rates because you cannot freeze while you shop around. Liquidity is freedom. It is the ability to pause, think, and negotiate. When you have a buffer, you are buying time. Time allows you to make rational decisions rather than emotional ones. And in the world of money, rational decisions almost always compound into wealth, while emotional decisions compound into debt. Debt is gravity. It is a force that constantly pulls you backward. Every dollar you pay in interest is a dollar that is not working for you. It is working for a bank. When you live without a buffer, you are walking a tightrope without a net. You might be balanced today, but gravity is patient. It only takes one slip, one medical bill, one layoff, one mistake to send you plummeting. The safety buffer is the net that catches you, allows you to bounce back, and keeps you on the wire. Constructing the fortress. You cannot build a fortress overnight, and trying to do so will only discourage you. If you look at the advice to save 6 months of expenses while you are currently living paycheck to paycheck, it feels impossible. So we are not going to do that. We are going to build your armor in stages. Stage 1 is the Sleep at Night Fund. This is 1 month of bare-bones expenses. This is not your full salary. It is the amount you need to keep the lights on, the rent paid, and the creditors away for 30 days. Your singular focus before you invest another dime or pay extra on your mortgage is to fill this bucket. This creates a psychological floor. You know that if the world stops turning, you have 30 days to figure it out. Stage 2 is the Stability Fund. Once you have crushed your high-interest debt, which we will discuss in a moment, you expand the buffer to 3 months. This covers the average time it takes to find a new job in a stable economy. At this stage, you are no longer living on the edge. You have breathing room. Stage 3 is the Freedom Fund. This is 6 to 12 months of expenses. This is for the person who wants to take big risks, start a business, switch careers, or move to a new city. This level of liquidity gives you the power to say no. It gives you the power to walk away from a toxic boss. It turns you from a servant of your salary into the master of your career. The algorithm of attack. While you are building stage 1 of your buffer, you are likely staring at a pile of debt. Credit cards, personal loans, car notes. They are staring back at you, compounding daily. You need a plan to kill them. There are two main schools of thought on how to do this, and people argue about them with religious fervor. The first is the avalanche. This is the mathematical approach. You list your debts by interest rate, from highest to lowest. You pay the minimums on everything and throw every spare dollar at the debt with the highest rate. Mathematically, this saves you the most money and gets you out of debt the fastest. The second is the snowball. This is the psychological approach. You list your debts by balance, from smallest to largest. You ignore the interest rates. You attack the smallest debt with everything you have. When it is gone, you take the money you were paying on it and roll it into the next smallest debt. Here is the truth. The best strategy is the one you will actually stick to. If you are motivated by seeing immediate wins, choose the snowball. Watching a small debt vanish in 2 months gives you a rush of dopamine that fuels you to tackle the next one. If you are a spreadsheet nerd who hates the idea of paying unnecessary interest, choose the avalanche. The only wrong choice is to switch back and forth. Pick one algorithm. Automate the payments. Do not deviate. The goal is to create a machine that eats your debt while you sleep. The siren song of leverage. As you embark on this journey, you will hear voices telling you that you are doing it wrong. They will tell you that cash is trash. They will tell you that you should be investing every penny because the market returns 8% and your savings account pays nothing. This is a dangerous myth. It ignores the concept of risk. Yes, the market might return 8% over the long run, but a credit card emergency charges you 25% immediately. You cannot out-invest a lack of liquidity. If you have all your money in stocks and your car breaks down, you have to sell those stocks, potentially at a loss, or borrow money to fix the car. You have introduced fragility into your system. You will also be tempted by the 0% balance transfer game. You will get offers in the mail promising you free money if you just move your debt to a new card. This is a trap designed for the disorganized. If you miss a single payment, or if you fail to pay off the entire balance by the end of the promotional period, the bank will often charge you retroactive interest on the entire original amount. They are betting that you will slip up. Given that you are already in debt, the odds are in their favor. Do not play games with snakes. Kill the debt, don't move it around. The protocol for chaos. Building the buffer is only half the battle. You also need a rule book for how to use it. If you don't define what an emergency is, you will eventually convince yourself that a flash sale on a television is a crisis. You need to write down your definition of a true emergency. It should be strict. A job loss is an emergency. A medical event is an emergency. A car repair that prevents you from getting to work is an emergency. A vacation is not. A wedding gift is not. Christmas is not. It happens on the same day every year. Plan for it. When a true emergency strikes, you execute the shock response protocol. First, you use the buffer. That is what it is there for. Do not feel guilty. Feel proud that you had the cash. Second, you immediately pause your other financial goals. Stop the extra debt payments. Stop the aggressive investing. Third, and most importantly, you refill the buffer. Before you resume your debt attack or your investing, you must replenish the armor. You are vulnerable until that account is back to its target level. Once it is full, you turn the other systems back on. This protocol ensures that a setback is just a pause, not a collapse. Hacking the windfall. One of the fastest ways to fill your buffer is to leverage windfalls. These are the unexpected chunks of money that land in your lap: a tax refund, a work bonus, a cash gift. The amateur sees a $2,000 bonus and thinks, free money, I can buy that thing I wanted. The result is that the money vanishes and their net worth stays flat. The ascetic sees the bonus and thinks, I must save 100% of this to be responsible. The result is that they feel deprived and eventually rebel. The professional uses the 80-20 rule. When a windfall arrives, you immediately commit 80% of it to your current step in the order of operations, filling the buffer or killing debt. The other 20% is yours to blow guilt-free. Go to a nice dinner. Buy the shoes. This split is magic. It gives you the dopamine hit of spending and the reward for your hard work, but it ensures that the vast majority of the money goes toward buying your freedom. You get to be responsible and reckless at the same time. By pre-deciding this split, you remove the willpower battle. When the check clears, the transfer happens. Naming your armor. To keep your hands off this money during non-emergencies, you need to leverage the power of labeling. If you leave the money in your checking account, you will spend it. If you move it to a savings account at the same bank, you will transfer it back when you want pizza. Open a separate account at a completely different bank. Do not get a debit card for it. Make it annoying to access. Then, give it a name that strikes fear or pride into your heart. Do not call it savings. That sounds like a reservoir waiting to be tapped. Call it the fortress. Call it Freedom Fund. Call it break glass in case of war. When you are tempted to raid it for a non-emergency, the name will stare back at you. Are you really going to raid the fortress for a pair of sneakers? The label acts as a final psychological barrier, a reminder of the money's true purpose. It is not for spending, it is for security. The unshakable you. When you successfully build this buffer and eliminate your consumer debt, a physical change comes over you. Your shoulders drop an inch. You sleep deeper. You walk into your office with a different energy. You are no longer terrified of your boss. You know that if they fire you today, you will be fine for 3 months. That subtle shift in power dynamics often makes you better at your job, which ironically makes you less likely to be fired. You become anti-fragile. You stop fighting with your partner about money because the constant low-level hum of anxiety is gone. When the car breaks down, you don't scream, you just solve it. You have moved from a life of reaction to a life of response. You have purchased the most valuable asset in the world, peace of mind. But peace of mind is not the same as optimization. You have stopped the bleeding and you have built a shield, but you are not yet winning the game of efficiency. While you sit there feeling safe, there are invisible hands reaching into your pocket every single day. They are taking small slivers of your wealth, 1% here, 2% there. It seems insignificant, like a leaky faucet dripping in the basement. You don't hear it, and you don't see it. But over a lifetime, these drips do not just create a puddle, they wash away half of everything you build. You are working for the system, but the system is taking a cut you never agreed to. In the next chapter, we're going to shine a light on these silent thieves, and we are going to shut them down for good. Chapter 7, Silent Leaks. Imagine you are running a race. You have trained hard, you have the best shoes, and your form is perfect. You are sprinting toward the finish line, putting every ounce of energy into your stride. But what you don't realize is that you are running with a parachute attached to your back. You can't see it, and because it has been there since the start, you don't even feel the drag. You just know that you are working twice as hard as the person next to you to achieve the exact same speed. In your financial life, this parachute exists. It is made of tiny percentages, 0.5%, 1%, 2%, that seem completely insignificant when you look at them on a monthly statement. They are so small that your brain, which struggles to comprehend exponential math, dismisses them as rounding errors. You think, what is 1%? It's pennies. But over a lifetime, that 1% is not pennies. It is a house. It is 5 years of retirement. It is the difference between freedom and perpetual labor. We have spent the last few chapters fixing your behavior. We have stopped the impulse spending, built the buffer, and crushed the debt. You are now a disciplined saver. But you can be the most disciplined saver in the world and still lose the game if your engine is leaking oil. In this chapter, we are going to find the silent leaks, the investment fees, the advisory costs, and the tax inefficiencies that are quietly siphoning off your wealth. We are going to cut the parachute so you can finally run at full speed. The tyranny of the tiny. The financial industry relies on your inability to do compound math in your head. They quote fees in small annual percentages because they know it sounds harmless. If an investment manager says, I charge a 1% fee, you think, okay, I keep 99 cents of every dollar. That sounds fair. That's not how the math works. You are not paying 1% of your profit. You are paying 1% of your total assets, regardless of whether they grow or shrink. Let's look at the reality of fee drag. If the market returns 7% in a given year and you are paying 1% in fees, you are not losing 1% of your gains. You are losing nearly 15% of your gains. You take 100% of the risk, you provide 100% of the capital, but the industry takes a massive slice of the upside off the top. Over 30 or 40 years, that 1% drag compounds negatively. It can consume up to 1/3 of your potential future net worth. This is the silent leak. It doesn't show up as a line item on your credit card bill. You don't get a notification on your phone saying you just lost $50,000 of future growth. It just vanishes. The money simply isn't there when you reach the end of the timeline. Your job is to stop being polite about this. You need to view every basis point, that's finance speak, for 0.01% as an enemy combatant. The high-cost fallacy. There is a pervasive myth in our culture that you get what you pay for. If you buy a luxury car, you expect it to perform better than a budget sedan. If you hire an expensive lawyer, you expect a better defense. We naturally apply this logic to investing. We assume that a fund with high fees must have smarter managers, better algorithms, and superior performance. In the world of investing, this heuristic is dead wrong. In fact, it is often inverted. The data is overwhelmingly clear. Cost is the single best predictor of future fund performance. The lower the cost, the higher the likely return. Why? Because the market is efficient and hard to beat. Most active managers who charge high fees fail to beat the simple market average over the long term. When you pay high fees, you are usually paying for a fancy office, a marketing budget, and a salesperson's commission, not for superior returns. You need to ruthlessly audit the expense ratio of every single investment you own. This number is often buried in the prospectus or the fine print. If you are paying more than 0.20% for a standard index fund or ETF, you are likely being ripped off. There are excellent, broad market funds available today for 0.03% or even zero. If you are sitting in a legacy mutual fund charging 1.5%, you are voluntarily lighting money on fire. The goal is to migrate your capital from high-cost, complex vehicles to low-cost, simple ones. You are moving from a luxury car that breaks down every week to a bullet train that runs on time, every time. The government is your silent partner. Fees are only one hole in the bucket. The other one is taxes. Now, we are not talking about tax evasion, which is illegal. We are talking about tax avoidance, which is your duty as a wealth builder. If you ignore tax efficiency, you are essentially tipping the government thousands of dollars extra just because you didn't feel like organizing your accounts. Think of your accounts as different types of containers. You have tax-advantaged containers, like 401ks, IRAs, RRSPs, etc., depending on your country, and taxable containers, standard brokerage accounts. You also have different types of investments. Some are noisy. They generate a lot of taxable events like interest payments or dividends. Bonds and real estate investment trusts, REITs, often fit this description. Others are quiet. They just sit there and grow in value without triggering a tax bill until you sell them. Broad market index funds usually fit here. The game is called asset location. You want to put the noisy assets inside the soundproof containers, tax-advantaged accounts, so the noise doesn't trigger a bill. You want to put the quiet assets in the taxable containers because they don't disturb the tax man as often. Many people mess this up. They put high-yield bonds in a taxable account and pay income tax on the interest every year, dragging down their returns. Or they put a tax-efficient index fund in a tax-deferred account, wasting the precious space. By simply rearranging where your assets sit, you can boost your after-tax returns without taking on a single ounce of extra risk. It is the only free lunch in finance. The efficiency ladder. To operationalize this, you need a sequence of contributions. We call this the tax efficiency ladder. When you have $1 of surplus, your keep rate, where does it go first? You don't just throw it into a random account. You follow the ladder. The first rung is usually the employer match. If your company offers to match your contribution to a retirement plan, you take it. That is an immediate 100% return on your money. No market investment will ever beat that. The next rung is usually your tax-advantaged accounts. You fill these up to their limits because the tax shelter allows your money to compound without the friction of annual taxes. Only when those buckets are overflowing do you move to the taxable brokerage account. This sounds simple, but millions of people skip the ladder. They open a trading app and start buying stocks in a taxable account while their tax-advantaged space sits empty. They are choosing to pay taxes they don't owe. They are choosing friction. Your plan must be to max out the efficiency of every dollar before it spills over into the next, less efficient bucket. The great audit. So how do you actually fix this? You need to set aside 1 hour this weekend for a leak audit. Log into every financial account you have. Dig up the fact sheets for every fund you own. Find the number labeled expense ratio or management fee. Write it down. If you see anything over 0.5%, circle it in red. If you see anything over 1.00%, circle it twice. Next, look for advisory fees. Are you paying a percentage of your assets to a financial advisor? If you are paying 1% a year for someone to pick stocks for you or to simply rebalance a portfolio that could be automated, you need to have a tough conversation. Unless that advisor is providing massive value in tax planning or estate complexity, that fee is a wealth killer. Finally, look at your transaction costs. Is your bank charging you a monthly maintenance fee? Are you paying $10 to trade a stock? These are archaic fees. In the modern era, basic banking and trading should be effectively free. If you are paying for the privilege of holding your own money, move it. Loyalty to a bank is a one-way street. They will take your fees, but they won't thank you for them. The switch. Once you have identified the leaks, you have to act. This is where people freeze. They suffer from analysis paralysis. They worry about the tax consequences of selling a bad fund or the hassle of transferring an account. Here is a rule of thumb. If you can lower your fees by 0.20% or more, it is almost always worth the switch. Yes, you might have to fill out some paperwork. Yes, you might trigger a small capital gains tax event if you sell a winner in a taxable account, though you should always check with a tax pro. But the long-term math is on your side. You are performing surgery to remove a parasite. There might be a little pain now, but the patient will be healthier forever. When you migrate, you aim for simplicity. You don't need 20 different funds. You need a core set of low-cost, broad market index funds that cover the globe. A portfolio with 3 funds often outperforms a portfolio with 30 funds because it is cheaper, easier to rebalance, and harder to mess up. The quarterly pulse. Optimization is not a daily task. If you are checking your expense ratios every Tuesday, you are wasting your life. This is a set it and review it protocol. We add this to your system as a quarterly maintenance check. Every 3 months, during one of your weekly reviews, you zoom out. You check to see if your asset allocation has drifted. If stocks have gone up and bonds have gone down, you rebalance to get back to your target. You check to see if any new fees have crept in. This quarterly pulse keeps the system clean. It prevents the entropy of high costs from creeping back into your life. It ensures that your tax placement remains logical as your portfolio grows. It is boring work, but it is the most profitable work you will ever do. The invisible victory. When you plug these leaks, the result is invisible at first. Your account balance doesn't jump overnight. But under the surface, the physics of your wealth have changed. You have removed the friction. Your money is now gliding on ice instead of grinding on asphalt. In the excellent outcome, you will drive your total fee rate down below 0.2%. You will have your assets located in the right tax buckets. You will have eliminated all bank fees and transaction costs. You will be keeping nearly 100% of the market's return for yourself. Over a decade, this efficiency compounds into tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars of extra wealth. That is money that would have gone to a fund manager's yacht or to the taxman's coffers, but instead, it is sitting in your account, buying your freedom. You have now built a machine that is lean, efficient, and protected. You have the mindset, the keep rate, the buffer, the plan, the spending controls, and the leak protection. You are technically doing everything right. But there is still a flaw in the design. The flaw is you. Right now, this entire system relies on you showing up. It relies on you remembering to make the transfer, remembering to check the caps, remembering to execute the plan. But you are human. You get tired, you get busy, you get distracted. Eventually, you will drop the ball. To make this wealth permanent, we have to remove the human element from the daily operation entirely. We have to take the you out of the equation so the machine runs even when you are asleep. In the next chapter, we are going to wire the final connections that turn your manual efforts into a perpetual motion machine. Chapter 8, Systems First. There is a version of you that is unstoppable. This version of you wakes up early, crushes every task at work, makes perfect financial decisions, and never feels the urge to impulse buy. This version of you is disciplined, focused, and rational. But there is another version of you. This version is tired. This version had a fight with a partner, got yelled at by a boss, and is currently staring at a phone screen at 10 p.m. with a depleted battery. This version is stressed, emotional, and looking for a quick hit of dopamine. Here is the uncomfortable truth. If your financial plan relies on the unstoppable, you showing up every single day, you are going to fail. Discipline is not a character trait. It is a biological resource. It is like a fuel tank. Every decision you make throughout the day, what to wear, what email to answer, how to handle a difficult client, burns a little bit of that fuel. By the time you get to the evening or the end of a brutal week, the tank is empty. That is when the tired you takes the wheel. The tired you is the one who blows the budget. The tired you is the one who forgets to transfer the savings. The tired you is the one who ignores the credit card bill because it is too stressful to look at. In this chapter, we are going to fire the tired you from the job of managing your wealth. In fact, we are going to fire the unstoppable you too. We are going to stop relying on human behavior altogether. We are going to build a system that operates with the cold, hard reliability of a machine. We are moving from a strategy of I will try to remember to a strategy of it happens automatically. The fallacy of heroics. We are culturally conditioned to admire intensity. We love the story of the entrepreneur who pulls all-nighters, or the person who lives on nothing but rice and beans for a year to pay off debt. We applaud the heroics. But in personal finance, heroics are usually a sign that something has gone wrong. Heroics are unsustainable. You can sprint for a minute, but you cannot sprint for a marathon. Consistency beats intensity every single time. A small, boring, automated transfer of $100 that happens every week for 10 years will vastly outperform the person who saves $5,000 once, then forgets for 6 months, then tries to make up for it with a panic-fueled austerity month. Systems are the antidote to heroics. A system does not care if you are motivated. It does not care if you are sad. It does not care if you are on vacation. It just executes. When you install a system, you are locking in your best intentions so that your worst days cannot destroy your progress. You are ensuring that your wealth compounds in the background quietly and relentlessly, regardless of the chaos in your daily life. The death of oops. Think about how much money you have lost to the word oops. The late fee on the credit card because you forgot the due date. The overdraft fee because you didn't check the balance. The thousands of dollars in missed investment returns because you meant to open that IRA 3 years ago but never got around to it. These are oops costs. They are the tax you pay for being human. When you rely on manual intervention for your money, you are voluntarily paying this tax. You are betting that your memory is perfect despite a lifetime of evidence to the contrary. When you automate, the oops vanishes. Late fees disappear because the bill pays itself. Missed savings disappear because the money moves before you have a chance to touch it. You stop making ad hoc decisions, should I save this month, and start living with automatic realities, I have saved this month. The mental load drops to zero. You reclaim the brain space you were using to juggle dates and balances. And you can use that energy for things that actually generate income, like your career or your skills. Wiring the machine. So how do we build this? We start by pre-programming the flow of capital. We are going to treat your income like water flowing through a series of pipes. Right now, you are carrying the water in buckets. We are going to install plumbing. The most critical connection is the payday split. On the morning your paycheck hits your account, your system must immediately strip away your keep rate. You set up an automatic transfer that moves your savings percentage to your fortress, buffer, or your investment accounts. This must happen on the same day you get paid. Not the next day, not the weekend after, the same day. This leverages a psychological concept called loss aversion. If the money sits in your checking account for 3 days, you mentally take ownership of it. You see it as yours to spend. When you move it later, it feels like a loss. It feels painful. But if the money vanishes instantly, you never bond with it. You adjust your spending to the lower balance immediately. You don't feel the loss because you never really had the gain. Next, you automate the defense. Every fixed bill, rent, mortgage, internet, insurance, must be set to autopay. There is no glory in manually paying the electric bill. It is a low-value task that carries high-risk penalties if missed. Automate it. For variable bills like credit cards, set them to autopay the full statement balance. This ensures you never pay interest. If you are worried about overdrafts, keep a mini buffer of half a month's expenses in your checking account at all times. That stagnant cash is the price of peace. The code of conduct. Automation handles the predictable stuff. But life is unpredictable. What happens when you get a bonus? What happens when you overspend? What happens when the market crashes? For these moments, we cannot use software. We have to use wetware, your brain. But we don't want your brain making decisions in the heat of the moment. We want to pre-code the decisions when you are calm. We call these if-then rules. You need to write a simple rule book. It should fit on a single index card or a note on your phone. It codifies your responses to specific triggers. If I receive a windfall, bonus tax refund gift, then I immediately apply the 80-20 split, 80% to the current goal, 20% to guilt-free fun. If I hit my spending cap in a category, then I stop spending in that category until the reset date. No borrowing from next week. If my keep rate drops below my target for 2 weeks in a row, then I cut my Whims cap by 20% for the next month to recover. These rules save you from negotiation. When the situation arises, you don't have to debate with yourself. You don't have to wonder what to do. You just look at the code and execute. It removes the emotional weight of the decision. You aren't being strict. You are just following the algorithm you wrote. The weekly pulse. There is a danger in automation, and it is called complacency. If you set everything to run on autopilot and never look at it, you risk drifting off course. A subscription price might go up. A transfer might fail. Your spending might slowly creep up without you noticing. To counter this, we install a weekly review ritual. This is the heartbeat of your system. It is a recurring 20-minute appointment with yourself. During this time, you are the pilot checking the instruments. You confirm that the automation's fired correctly. You update your keep rate tracker. You adjust your spending caps for the week ahead. You execute one item from your leak audit list. This is not a time for guilt. It is a time for verification. If the system failed, you fix the system. If you overspent, you adjust the caps. This short feedback loop prevents small errors from becoming large disasters. It keeps the machine honest. The set it and forget it trap. You might hear people say that automation is restrictive, that it takes away your freedom to choose what to do with your money. This is a myth. Automation is the ultimate freedom. It is the freedom from worry. When you know your bills are paid, your savings are funded, and your debt is being attacked automatically, you walk through the world with a lighter step. You don't have that low-level hum of anxiety in the back of your mind, wondering if you forgot something. You have outsourced the boring, repetitive maintenance of your life to a system that does it better than you ever could. But you must respect the machine. You cannot just walk away. The weekly review is the safety valve. If you skip it, the set it and forget it mentality can turn into set it and neglect it. You might miss a fraudulent charge. You might not notice that your lifestyle costs have risen. Automation carries the weight, but you must still steer the ship. The streak. To keep yourself engaged with this boring, effective machine, gamify it. Track your review streak. How many weeks in a row have you completed your 20-minute ritual? Make this number visible. Put it on your fridge or your phone home screen. Protect the streak. There is a profound psychological power in not wanting to break the chain. If you miss a week, the counter resets to 0. That simple bit of friction is often enough to make you sit down and do the work, even when you don't feel like it. In the best-case scenario, you will look up after a year and realize you have hit a 52-week streak. Your plan has run largely hands-off. Your quarterly audits were executed without drama. Your decision fatigue is near 0. You have reached a state of calm baseline, where wealth accumulation is just the background noise of your life. The final connection. You have now constructed a formidable engine. You have the mindset of a builder. You have the keep rate of a pro. You have the buffer of a fortress. You have the plan, the spending controls, the leak protection, and the automated systems to run it all. By all accounts, you have won the game of money mechanics. But a machine, no matter how efficient, is useless without a destination. You can drive a Ferrari at 200 miles per hour, but if you are driving in circles, you are just burning gas. You are accumulating capital, but capital is just stored energy. The question is, what are you going to do with all this potential? Most people stop here. They get the money right, and they think they are done. But they are missing the final, most critical step. They are missing the strategy that turns having money into having a life. There is one last transformation that needs to happen, a shift that takes you from being a person who is good at saving to a person who is truly, undeniably rich in every sense of the word. In the final chapter, we are going to unlock the ultimate purpose of this entire system. Chapter 9. Keep compounding. You started this book tired. You were likely working hard, earning well, and yet feeling a low-level hum of anxiety that never quite went away. You were running on a treadmill, sweating and sprinting, but the scenery never changed. You were trapped in the cycle of earning to spend, spending to live, and living to earn again. Now, you are standing in a different place. You haven't just learned a few tricks to save money on coffee. You have fundamentally re-engineered the operating system of your life. You have moved from a life of reaction to a life of design. You have stopped hoping for wealth and started manufacturing it. This final chapter is not about adding more complexity. It is about cementing the momentum you have built. We are going to lock in the changes so that they survive the chaos of the real world. We are going to look at what happens when you stop fighting the current and start letting the river carry you. You have built the machine. Now it is time to let it run. The architecture of freedom. Let's look at the structure you have built. It started in your head. You deleted the corrupted files that told you scarcity was noble or that income was the scorecard. You replaced them with the identity of a builder. You stopped asking, "What can I cut?" and started asking, "What can I design?" You realized that you are not a consumer, you are a capital allocator. Then you looked at the math. You stopped worshiping the gross income line on your pay stub and started obsessing over your keep rate. You realized that it doesn't matter how much water flows through the pipe if the bucket is full of holes. You plugged the leaks. You crushed the fees. You optimized the taxes. You built a fortress of cash that stands between you and the unexpected, turning potential disasters into mere inconveniences. Finally, you fired your willpower. You admitted that you are human, that you get tired, and that you cannot be trusted to make perfect decisions at 8 p.m. on a Friday. So you built a system. You automated the flow of money so that the right thing happens by default. You installed a weekly ritual to keep the machine calibrated. You moved from a life of, "I hope I remember," to a life of, "It is already done." This is not just a financial plan. It is a declaration of independence. The anti-fragile life. When you live without this system, you are fragile. A bad boss, a market crash, or a sudden illness can shatter your world. You walk on eggshells, afraid to speak up, afraid to take risks, afraid to rock the boat because you cannot afford to fall into the water. But when you have a 30% keep rate and a 12-month buffer, you become anti-fragile. You gain the ability to absorb shocks and even benefit from them. If the economy turns down, you don't panic. You see it as a buying opportunity for your automated investments. If your industry shifts, you have the liquidity to retrain or pivot without missing a meal. This changes your time horizon. Poor thinking is obsessed with Friday. Rich thinking is obsessed with 5 years from now. When you aren't worried about making rent, your brain unlocks the bandwidth to think about legacy, strategy, and mastery. You stop playing the short game of survival and start playing the long game of growth. You also gain the ultimate superpower, the ability to say no. You can say no to the project that drains your soul. You can say no to the client who disrespects you. You negotiate from a position of strength because you don't need the deal to survive. The person who can walk away from the table always has the most power. Your system gives you walking away money. The ripple effect. The impact of this system extends far beyond your bank account. It bleeds into your relationships in profound ways. Money is the #1 cause of stress and divorce in relationships, not because of the lack of it, but because of the chaos of it. When you and your partner are operating on vague intentions, every purchase is a potential argument. Why did you buy that? Becomes a loaded question. But when you have a system with clear caps, automated savings, and a guilt-free Whims bucket, the tension evaporates. You stop fighting about the $50 purchase because the system has already accounted for it. You replace surprise arguments with a weekly sync. You become a team of architects building a shared vision rather than 2 roommates fighting over the utility bill. This stability also unlocks generosity. It is hard to be generous when you are worried about your own survival. Scarcity makes us selfish, but when your cup is overflowing, generosity becomes easy. You can give from your surplus without fear. You can help a friend in need, donate to a cause you care about, or simply pick up the check at dinner because you know your buffer is full and your future is secure. You model calm in a chaotic world, and that is a gift to everyone around you. The flywheel of ease. The most beautiful part of this journey is that it gets easier every single day. In the beginning, there is friction. You have to set up the accounts, make the phone calls, and fight the old habits. It feels like pushing a heavy stone wheel. But once the wheel starts turning, physics takes over. This is the flywheel effect. Your defaults are now carrying 80% of the load. You don't have to decide to save money this month. The automation does it. You don't have to decide to pay off debt. The system does it. You are expending less mental energy to achieve better results. As your results improve, your belief deepens. You see your net worth graph ticking upward. You see the debt balance dropping. This visual proof reinforces your identity as a builder. Because you see yourself as a builder, you make better choices naturally. The better choices lead to better results. The loop feeds itself. Eventually, you reach a point where being wasteful feels unnatural. You don't have to force yourself to walk past the impulse buy. You simply have no desire for it because it doesn't align with who you are. The discipline that once felt like a heavy coat now feels like your own skin. The next 90 days. So, what happens now? You have read the book, you understand the theory, but information without execution is just entertainment. The next 90 days will determine whether this book changes your life or just sits on your shelf. Your immediate mission is simple. You need to book your first keep rate review. Do not wait for the perfect time. Do not wait until you feel ready. Open your calendar right now and block out 20 minutes for this coming Sunday. Name the event Money Review. Invite your partner if you have one. In that first meeting, you're going to do one thing. You're going to create your dashboard. It doesn't need to be a complex spreadsheet. A piece of paper works. Write down your current keep rate. Write down your buffer target. Write down your debt balance. Then you're going to set one rule. Just one. Maybe it is, I will wait 24 hours before buying anything over $50. Maybe it is, I will transfer 5% of my income to savings on payday. Pick the smallest, most achievable rule you can find and stick to it for 7 days. Then next Sunday, you do it again. You track the number, you celebrate the streak, you add 1% to the savings rate. The architect of your fate. There is a concept in aviation called the point of no return. It is the moment in a flight when the plane has burned too much fuel to turn back. It must continue to its destination. You are at your point of no return. You can no longer claim ignorance. You know exactly why you have been stuck. You know about the silent leaks, the spending traps, and the mindset errors. You have seen the blueprint. You cannot unsee it. If you go back to your old ways now, it will be a conscious choice. You will be choosing stress. You will be choosing fragility. You will be choosing to let the world dictate your life. But I don't think you will do that. I think you are ready to be the builder. Wealth is not about the cars, the watches, or the houses. Those are just toys. Real wealth is the quiet morning where you wake up without an alarm because you own your time. Real wealth is the ability to look at a problem and know you have the resources to solve it. Real wealth is the silence of a mind that is no longer screaming about survival. You have the tools, you have the system, the machine is built, and the engine is idling, waiting for you to put it in gear. The next 30 years of your life are going to pass regardless of what you do. The only question is whether they will pass as a blur of stress and missed opportunities, or as a steady, compounding climb toward total freedom. The choice is yours. The system is ready. Keep compounding.